The patrol car rolled to a stop. Red and blue lights flashed once, unnecessarily bright in the empty street. The man turned his head slowly, not startled, not afraid, just alert. He had learned long ago that sudden movements invited problems. "Hey!" Officer Mark Riley called out. "What are you doing here?" The man didn't answer immediately. He looked at the street, then back at them. "Waiting," he said. Officer Jake Nolan stepped out of the car, laughing. "Waiting for what? A ghost bus?" The man's expression didn't change. "For someone." Mark exchanged a look with Jake. "Kind of look rookies give each other when they think. They've already figured someone out." "You live around here?" Mark asked. "No." Jake grinned. "Funny how that works." "ID," Mark said sharply. The man reached into his coat slowly and handed over his wallet. His name read Daniel Carter. Jake whistled softly. "Other side of town. So let me get this straight. You just decided to come stand here in the middle of the night?" Daniel met his eyes. "Yes." "That's suspicious," Jake said. Daniel's voice stayed calm. "Standing is not a crime." Mark stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Don't lecture us." Jake circled Daniel, shining a flashlight in his face, then down his body, lingering longer than necessary. "You got anything on you?" "No." "You sure?" Jake pressed. "Yes." Mark's tone shifted, colder now. "Turn around." Daniel hesitated for half a second. "Am I being detained?" Jake laughed. "You hear that? He's one of those." Mark grabbed Daniel's arm and pushed him toward the hood of the car. "Hands up." The metal was cold. Daniel placed his hands where they told him to, jaw tightening. He had done everything right, spoken politely, moved slowly, obeyed commands, and still here he was. "This always happens," Daniel said quietly. Mark frowned. "What's that supposed to mean?" Daniel didn't answer. From down the street, a car approached and stopped. A white woman stepped out, her heels clicking sharply against the pavement. "Daniel?" she called. Daniel exhaled. "I'm here." She walked closer, eyes narrowing at the scene in front of her. "Why is he against your car?" Mark straightened. "Ma'am, this is police business." "He's waiting for me," she said firmly. "He's my attorney." Silence. Jake blinked. "Your attorney?" Daniel turned slightly. "I told you I was waiting." The woman crossed her arms. "Is there a reason you're detaining him?" Mark hesitated, then stepped back. "Routine check." Daniel turned around slowly, looking at both officers, not angry, not loud, just disappointed. "You didn't stop me because of my behavior," he said. "You stopped me because of how I look." Jake scoffed. "That's not—" Daniel raised a hand gently. "It is." The woman opened her car door. "We're done here." As Daniel got in, he looked back one last time. "You should be careful," he said quietly. "Nights like this don't stay small forever." The car drove away. Mark laughed nervously. "Guy thinks he's special." Jake shrugged. "Whatever, let's roll." They didn't know they had just crossed paths with a man who documented injustice for a living. They didn't know this stop would come back to haunt them. They thought the night was over. It wasn't. The patrol car disappeared into the dark, its engine noise fading until the street was silent again. Mark exhaled and leaned back in his seat. "See? Nothing happened." Jake laughed, shaking his head. Guy really thought he was important. They drove on, convinced the night had ended in their favor. Across town, Daniel Carter sat in the passenger seat of Emily Harper's car, staring out the window. The city lights reflected in his eyes, but his face remained calm, too calm for someone who had just been humiliated. "They didn't even realize," Emily said quietly. Daniel nodded. "They never do." He unlocked his phone and opened a secure folder. Inside were timestamps, location data, and a clean audio recording of the entire stop. Every word, every pause, every loaded sentence. "This isn't just about tonight," Daniel said. "It never is." The next morning, Mark and Jake walked into the precinct, joking about weekend plans. The laughter stopped when they saw the mood inside. Conversations were hushed. Eyes followed them. "Riley, Nolan." The voice was firm, commanding. The captain stood near his office door. "Inside now." The door closed behind them. No jokes this time. A tablet lay on the desk. The captain tapped the screen. Mark heard his own voice fill the room. "You don't belong here at this hour." "You people always ask that." Jake's face went pale. The captain paused the audio. "Do either of you want to explain this?" Mark swallowed. Sir, we were just doing our job. Your job, the captain said coldly, is not to profile. He slid a folder across the desk. Formal complaint. Civil rights lawsuit. Media already has it. Jake's voice cracked. Media? Outside the station, cameras lined the sidewalk. Daniel stood in front of them, composed, his presence quiet but commanding. Reporters shouted questions. Mr. Carter, why did you file this case? Do you believe this was racism? Are you targeting the police department? Daniel raised a hand, and the noise slowly died down. Didn't choose this incident, he said calmly. It chose me. I stood still. I spoke politely, and I was treated as a threat. That is the problem. By afternoon, the story was everywhere. Quiet man stopped for standing. Lawsuit filed. Rookie cops accused of racial profiling. Old footage surfaced. Other stops. Other complaints quietly buried before. A pattern began to form. Internal Affairs launched a full investigation. Officers were interviewed. Supervisors questioned. Policies reviewed. Mark stopped sleeping. Jake stopped answering calls from friends. In court weeks later, the room was packed. Daniel stood at the front. No emotion in his face, no anger in his voice. This case is not about hatred, he said. It's about assumption. About what happens when authority decides who looks suspicious. Witnesses spoke. Experts testified. Statistics filled the screen. The jury listened. Mark watched as his confidence drained away with every word. Jake kept his eyes down. When the verdict was read, there was no gasp, only silence. Liability confirmed. Rights violated. The department announced suspensions, mandatory training, policy reform. Public apologies followed, but they came too late. Outside the courthouse, a reporter asked Daniel, "Do you feel like you won?" Daniel paused. This was never about winning, he said. It was about stopping something that should never have started. Mark and Jake walked out separately that day. No uniforms, no badges, no laughter, just consequences. The city moved on. But the night didn't disappear. Because one quiet man had been mocked, doubted, and pushed, and the truth he carried didn't shout. It waited.